What is up, YouTube? McIntyre here. Today I'm bringing you guys a video talking about something that's fairly basic, but I think it needs to be discussed, and I don't think it's been discussed anywhere, and that is the merc camps and the boss mechanics. I wanted to talk about each of them today and sort of break down how you should be doing them, how to efficiently do camps, what boss mechanics do, how to interact with them, and that's kind of what this video is today. For me, when I talk about camps, I talk about easy camps and hard camps. Easy camps are these siege giants, for example. They're easy because they don't require anything. They don't deal damage to you now, especially after their new mechanic. So any hero in the game can solo them, and they're effectively, easier to do than the hard camp. The hard camp would be the knights in this case. The knights are a bit more difficult to kill by yourself. You're under threat if you do them solo. There are heroes that can do them solo, but they're an objective that if they get invaded, then it's possible that the enemy team can threaten you off of them. So we're going to go into the last mechanic, and that's the boss mechanic. And while most people know what the boss does, I will talk general boss strategy, even when looking at the different types of bosses. But let's work our way back up to the easy camp. So these siege giants can be found on a few maps. You cannot find them on the Diablo maps or Volskaya, but maps like Cursed Hollow, Dragonshire. That's where you see these guys a lot of the time, and on Tomb of the Spider Queen. They're very easy to get out, and if they're left alone, they get a lot of value because they'll just siege buildings down uncontestedly. The best way to kill these things, as I start to hit them here, is you'll see they throw sort of damage at you, and you can see the circles. So as long as you never get hit by these circles, you can do this camp without taking any damage at all. I see too many people just hit the camp like this, or they'll come up and they'll punch the camp like this. Even when you're in melee range, as long as you just move left to right, this camp will not deal damage to you. So it's very important to understand that when doing a camp. The other thing is, if you have a splash type damage and both of them are weak, you can leave the one that will die to the splash down, so that when you use your splash ability, you'll kill it, right? Like, let's say you have Greymane, for example, and one gets very low, and I can just wait until I can cocktail, or if I'm in Worgen form, I can do my slash, and that'll kill it. I don't have to waste the auto attack damage, which is more. So now I want to talk about the hard camp. The hard camp in this case is a bit more interesting because it has the spell armor wizard who auto attacks you at a ranged, and then it has the melee minions. And the funny thing about the melee minions is that they can actually be kited. So we'll see here, if I start hitting this guy, not all the melee minions can hit me, right? And then when I get to the melee minions, if I kite around the one, you can see that you kind of have some that chase after you. You can almost make it so that you're only tanking one at a time, and this will make it a bit safer for you, especially when there's two left. As you can see there, the second one will chase you around the first one that's hitting you. But this is important because this allows you to do these camps a bit easier and by yourself without taking too much damage, right? So let me tap really quickly, and then I can show you guys what it'll look like if I don't kite, right? If I don't focus the wizard. So the wizard also gives a spell armor. So let's just say I start this and I start hitting this guy, and I see this happen a lot as well. I just can't do enough, right? This guy's hitting me constantly. He's got his spell armor, and I'm unable to do the camp solo. So I just wanted to bring up, the efficient way to do the camp. Start with the mage, then kite in circles around the melees, because then they won't hit you as much and as often. And then when there's two melees left, then you can kite the one around the other, right? You can see it here. There's one melee left. I'll just kite this melee around the mage. Actually, the mage is against the wall on this map, so I'm not able to do that. Okay, here we go. So I should be able to, you can see here, right? This guy can never get an attack on me. So you can do that when there's 2 minions left on that camp. So those are the 2 important things for the easies and hards. So the last objective or merc camp on the map is the boss. This is the basic boss. This has been in the game for forever. All you really need to know about this boss is he has a root circle and a stomp AoE circle around him. Funny enough, if you get hit by one, the boss kind of is smart enough to try to hit you with the other one. Other important notes to know about this boss in particular is once you capture it, if you're having a team fight and you capture this boss, the programming of the boss is to cast a root the second it sees an enemy. So if you capture this boss in that boss pit, like on Cursed Hollow, for example, it'll cast the root circle immediately the second that it spawns. The other thing that's important about this boss when pushing with it especially is to fight under it, because it will trigger the stomp mechanic, it will trigger the root mechanic, and these are something that I see even my own team and other pro teams not do enough. Pro teams do it though. It is important to remember that if you have a boss pushing, it is a 6th team member, and you should play around that, right? Where a lot of the time you'll see people get bosses and then they'll run away from the boss, when in reality, if you clump under the boss, a lot of the time it'll protect you with its stomp in its circle. But we'll show the mechanics here now, and I'll see if I can just get hit by both of them. So if I get hit by this, you see how he immediately stomps after, and this is how you see people get killed by bosses. So it's crucial that you do not get hit by that root, otherwise the boss will stomp out afterwards and just do insane amount of damage to you. But these are the 3 most basic camps. So now we're gonna hop to another map and we're gonna talk about some of the other objectives in the game. So the next camp that we want to talk about is the first camp on the Diablo maps. This is where I would say the easy camp again. These are guys that throw spears. The important things to know about this camp is that it will siege, but you cannot avoid the damage from these guys. So when you start the camp, you can see here that because they're ranged heroes, there's no way for me to dodge this sort of damage. With that said, these guys don't really hit very hard, right? I'm level 2, as you can see here, and this is the damage that they deal to me. What's important about this camp, and all camps where you can't avoid the damage, is to focus target 1 to alleviate some of that damage coming in, right? This is a very simple concept, but if you kill one of them, right, then you'll take less damage, and the camp becomes easier to do. This camp, really easy to get out. You can do it with pretty much any ranged hero. Most like 2-man groups, like let's say a range and a support, start the camp. It's very easy to do. The other team can contest you, but it's not something that you need to worry about. The next camp on the Diablo map is going to be the hard camp. This is another boss kind of mechanic going on this camp, and there is a trick to doing it. Both of the doggies are less health than the summoner, so what I like to do on this camp a lot of the times is to kill the dogs first before I kill the summoner. So you can also do the kiting mechanic, kind of like we talked about with the hard camp. As you can see, the dog won't hit me while I, especially with a hero like Mathiel, can really do this camp quickly and efficiently. And then once I've killed both of the dogs, I'll work on the summoner. The reason for that is, one, you can do that first dog for free, and the fact that you can kite the damage and get them out of the way before you kill the ranger is a little bit better. If you try to kill the ranger, then both the dogs hit you at the same time, you take more damage that way. If you kill both of the dogs then the summoner, I found it to be the most efficient way to do this camp. And while we're here, we'll talk about another boss mechanic. This is one that it still amazes me that people don't know the concepts of it. The BOE Immortals. the first thing that happens when you walk into the Immortal Circle is it spins. It always spins. If it hasn't done any input, it's a spin first. Then it's followed. So here we go. We'll see the first spin. Okay. Then it's going to be followed by circles. There's the circles. Then there should be another circles. Then there should be a spin. Yep. So it's 2 circles, spin, 2 circles, spin. And it almost auto defaults to circle first. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So from the reset stage of the Immortal, the boss is now on a fresh cooldown. So the very first cooldown that this guy will do is spin. Right? And now it's going to go back to double circle and spin. So during double circle phase, I mean, if you're standing here, you're completely safe, right? You're completely safe. But now that you know 2 circles have gone up, now this is when we come to the outer end, because now we're safe on the outside of the boss, right? Because once we go in, it'll spin. The only thing that can alter this, and I'll show you this right now, I think this alters it at least. I've always felt like it does. So by walking into the boss, you trigger the circle, okay? But if you stand on the outside of the boss, let's see, it eventually spawns circles on the outside. So it will do that, but I mean, you can trigger that inside circle yourself by, see, it's cast 2 circles now. If I walk into the inside of it, it should spin. Yep. And now it'll do 2 circles. And then it'll do a spin if I force into the middle of it. Otherwise, it'll figure out that I'm on the outside of it, and it'll do another outside circle. So if I don't ever breach this inner circle here, it'll put more circles on the outside. So you're not completely safe. But if you're a ranged hero, what you really want to do to be efficient here is like, you're ranging it, right? You're hitting it, you're hitting it, you're hitting it, and then you know the 2 circles have passed. So if you dip into the inside of it, you can keep ranging it safely right now. And now that it's done this middle circle, we can come back to the inside. So I wanted to talk about that because I know a lot of people, for whatever reason, still haven't gotten that down. But yeah, so hopefully you learned something from that. Now we're going to move on to the next boss mechanic. The second boss mechanic in the game is the Sky Temple Tomb of the Spider Queen Tornado boss. The difference between the 2 bosses is the tornado spawn. The tornado spawns typically on top of you as well. So one thing that you see a lot of teams like to do, let's say if my enemy is on this side, you'll see a lot of teams pull the boss from this side of the pit and then move to the other side. And this will cause the tornado to be on the opposite side, deflecting the enemy team off of the boss pit. There's no circle spawn anymore, so you don't have to worry too much about the route of the boss circle into the slam, but it still has a slam into tornado mechanic. The thing again to remember is if you stand on the side that you want the tornado to deter the enemy off of, you can force that spawn. Other than that, very simple basic boss concept, not too hard. Just remember not to get stomped, and be careful of the tornado body blocking you or pushing you into the boss circle on this objective. So the next camp that we want to talk about are the StarCraft camps. I at first almost had forgotten about these camps because the Warhead map and Braxis map, in my opinion, are the 2 worst maps in the game. But I figured I'd talk about these camps because it is important. The first one is going to be the easy camp on this map, which is the Siege camp. This isn't even that easy of a camp. It's hard to actually solo this camp now after the buff. Essentially, these guys, when they auto attack you, they decrease your armor, and they have like a mini kind of range on their auto attack, so you can still kite them fairly well. As you can see, the middle one is getting like to fully attack me, and the one kiting around isn't. But just looking at the speed that I'm actually doing this camp, it takes a while. Like, this camp knocks your armor too, so if you do end up getting ganked while you're doing the camp, a lot of the times, if you're a weaker jungler, in this case I'm Blaze, so it's not too bad, but if you're a weaker jungler and, your health pool isn't that much, you can easily get ganked on this camp, and killed. But it is a good camp to get out because these guys are beastly at pushing. Whenever you get these two dudes pushing, I'd just say go with them and siege with them. They have lots of health and they knock armor off of buildings. So if you siege with them, like, they're insanely powerful. And heroes like Sylvanas and Sonya that have Merklord actually buffing these things is kind of scary, I'll be honest. On this map, if you take Merc Queen on Sylvanas and just run with these things in the lane, you can get a lot of sieging done. The second camp on this map is the hard camp. Much like the other hard camps, you know, you have your ranger and your 3 melee minions. The thing about this, again, is these are unavoidable damage dealers. So the best thing to do is to get rid of the range guy, because he shoots rockets that deal kind of burst damage. The other guys just pester you. So you have heroes like Sonya, for example, where every time she takes a source of damage, she gets Fury. If you do this camp as a Sonya, you are full Fury the entire time. You could even, as a strategy, run to this camp from the lane, maybe, as Sonya, tag it so you get full Fury, and then go back to the lane and you have full Fury, and you can trade up from there. But as you can see, this is a fairly difficult camp to take, honestly. Again, it is the hard camp of the map. But you need, you know, maybe 1 or 2. This is a camp I would even suggest 3 heroes for to do. And knock it out really quick. It pushes really well. And the vision that the rocket guy provides is really nice against, like, Valeera and stealth heroes in general. Because you get a big circle around you that protects you from those types of assassins. So the first of the 2 StarCraft bosses is the Braxis boss. I am not really going to talk about the Warhead boss. I maybe can put up a clip somewhere after this of the boss and its mechanics. Essentially, it has a sludge that it builds up. It makes a sludge circle that if you stand in it, you take damage. It spits out locusts that blow up if you walk over them, but you can trigger the blow up by walking over them. And that's about it, honestly. I'll show a clip of that after this boss, but let's talk about the Braxis boss really quick and talk about some things that some people might not know. So one thing about this boss is that the longer it attacks you, the more damage it deals. So when you're taking this boss, it's very important that your team kind of continues to aggro it at different angles. If your team aggroes it like 4 people at a time, so you're kind of, one person runs in, gets hit a couple times, then pops out, and then another person walks in, gets hit, pops out. If you do that, you'll notice that this boss doesn't really do any damage if you tank it correctly as a team. So you can do this boss really quickly, and you can do this boss without taking much damage as long as you do it correctly. The other 2 mechanics that this boss has is the rocket, which is a little circle rocket that it shoots out. It happens pretty quick. It does a good amount of damage. And the second is it's kind of shooting towards you sort of mechanic. And this can be powerful and used offensively and defensively. So I say that in the fact that if, let's say, you don't want the other team to know you're doing the boss, it will aggro that shooting tunnel at wherever you're standing. So if you want them to not know you're doing a boss, let's say they're getting the boss shrine and we start hitting the boss from this side and it does its machine gun thing, the enemy team will see these kind of lines, right? Like this oil line, but coming from the boss. And they'll know that now that you're doing the boss. You know, so sometimes it's important to, you know, do the boss from this side. Then it'll shoot towards your side of the map and the other team won't know you're doing it. Or if the other team definitely knows you're doing it, sometimes you can get on this side of the boss and it'll shoot towards the enemy team as they run in, right? So those are the three most important mechanics of the boss. To remember to switch tank, because the longer the boss hits you, the more it deals damage. It grows as it deals more damage to you. So its very first few attacks don't do a lot, but if you continue to get hit by it, then that'll scale on itself. The rocket circle and the machine gun tunnel. I'll hit the boss now to show you. There's the rocket, and then typically it's rocket and then the machine gun. But now I can show you guys what I was talking about, where hopefully he does a tunnel. Come on, work with me. I was gonna try to get him to do a tunnel downwards, but he was not working with me. Anyways, those are the 3 things. Again, remember, switch tank if you can tank differently. This boss doesn't do really any damage. It's very easy. Just dodge the rockets, keep moving. As you can see, this guy spits out a lot of rockets, and those will deal damage if you just stand still and attack it. Otherwise, he's not that threatening as a boss altogether. So now you should see the warhead, hopefully now.
They're going for the boss. Void Prison is up, but with 2 members down and only 1 global, it doesn't matter. This is going to be a free boss. How many nukes do we have in control here? Fnatic has 2 nukes in their hands. This could lead to a keep. A lot of experience going to be available considering the top 4 is there as well. That will be a 15 and a quarter power spike, but they don't care. Ballistics is still looking to force this issue. Zhonghua with the Void. Tassadar is not there. Sanctification. Gus. Nukes go down. Void goes down. It's going to be timed perfectly. The nukes go in. Is it going to land? Breeze is in such a bad position.
Breeze just got hit by a nuke too. Breeze is going to go down.
Nobody's on
Everybody's on the point. They have to put Smexy on the point. He goes into ice block. They've taken action.
And they get the boss. 4 for 3.
Hopping over to Towers of Doom, I wanted to quickly talk about the Sapper camp. This camp is interesting because it interacts a lot like an easy camp or a siege camp in the fact that you can do it without taking damage. It's just much faster, and there's 3 instead of 2. So we'll hop into it really quick so you guys can see what's going on. The circles that they spit out are, again, just like the siege camp. So it's possible to do this camp as any hero because you don't actually take damage. So what becomes important here is how fast you can do this camp. So you can see here what I typically do is just, I don't know, just make some loops around. Don't stand still really. And just attack whichever one you can. You can just honestly draw a circle around them and just attack each of them as you get to them. You can do it super fast, super quick. And now I'll go to the other side and show you kind of how fast you can do them without taking damage, you know, if I'm using my abilities. Typically in a tournament scenario, I just stick to the middle. And taking a little bit of damage isn't too bad because you get a glow up after you finish the camp anyways. Boom. That's it for Towers of Doom. Sappers are really important. They siege walls down. They take bottom keep and top keep. And controlling these 2 keeps on the map are some of the most important parts of playing Towers of Doom. On to the next. The last map mechanic or merc camps that we want to talk about today is on Volskaya. This is the newest sort of mechanics for, I guess, mercs that we have because we have item drops. But we'll talk about the easiest first. This camp is a lot like the spear guys. They all target you no matter where you are. So it's best to just race them down, like race one of them down. If you kill them fast, you know, then you can take less damage because you have 1 less dealing damage to you. Pretty simple. Basically any ranged hero can come and do this camp. They don't do very much damage to you. The second most important camp on this map is the turret camp. One thing to know about this camp is that when you deal damage to this guy and you deal damage to this guy ends up healing this guy. So what you really want to do with this camp is try to kill that repairman first before you work on the turret camp. I would say this camp is actually a pretty strong camp. As you can see here, I'm level 10 and I just got half health by it as Matthew. This is a good camp to come and do as a 2-man or 3-man off of the middle capture. Like maybe you push out mid, you rotate down here to get this quick while, you know, you have someone top and bot. And the last camp on this map is going to be the heal camp. By doing this camp, you now get a biotic emitter, who is a fancy name for a healing ward that gives you mana and health pretty quickly. You can see I can place the turret here to help me with this. This guy is kind of like a mini boss on the map. I'm not even sure if I can solo him, to be honest. The only mechanic that he has is... Can I kite this around the turret? Kind of. The only mechanic that this boss has is... Oh wow, he's aggroing the turret. Is he heals himself. So... You just have to watch out for that. Like I said, it's kind of the mini boss of the map because the other team can contest. The other thing to remember about both of these camps is when you capture them, the power-up spits out. So it doesn't matter which team captures it because both teams have the chance to right-click the power-up, right? So that's something to keep in mind on this map in particular when capturing is, you know, the fact that it can get stolen if you're not quick enough to pick it up. But that's going to be it for the Merc camps on this game. If you guys enjoyed, please make sure to throw a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I can try to make more videos like this where I make edits and things of that such, but I'm not really sure what you guys would want to see. So if you could let me know in the comment section below what type of videos like this you would like to see, I can continue to try my best to make them. I do have some free time now before the Clash, so I'm trying to put out some content, and that might be a good way for you guys to get some suggestions in and get content out to you all. If you like this though, make sure to check me out on Twitch and Twitter. Those are going to be in the description, as well as my Heroes Hearth profile where you can find my blogs, my builds, and my tier list. That's going to be it for this video, guys. Again, thank you all so much, and until the next time, I'll see you then.